Hi, how's it going?
It's so
It's
nice
nice
to
to
meet
meet you.
you. Yeah, this is great. I'm such a fan of your work, and also
Likewise.
we'll get into this in the convo, but like we have a lot in common as people and artists, I think.
Yeah.
For me, like when I look at your art, there's a lot of Latinidad. There's a lot of, I think, Catholic symbolism in a lot of your art. And as someone who was
Yeah.
raised Catholic, it's like very striking to me and immediate. And also
hmm
the queerness of your art. Can you talk about sort of like how those things came to be, the things that you wanted to focus on?
Well, my art is very much a reflection of me and who I am as a person, and I was also raised very Catholic,
Mhm.
and growing up gay and Catholic is like a very it's not a very good experience. I'm sure
Yeah,
you know.
I agree with it. It's very like spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, right? It's these beautiful explosions of color and shape, which I think is really pleasurable as a viewer to experience.
And taking that iconography and kind of stealing it for myself has
Hmm.
been um, something I've always wanted to do as like a queer little artist, and slowly I've learned how to like kind of make it happen.
Not only is your work like beautiful, love the Dolly Parton
Thank
pieces,
you.
I love them.
Thank you.
But it's also like oftentimes political.
I mean, to live in America and to be, brown and also be queer, like you're right. Like I just living is for me is political. So I don't really shy away from making my voice heard, and hopefully connecting with others that feel similarly to myself. I felt like it was my duty as an artist to like inspire others to keep fighting,
Hmm.
because it's hard living here.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's my way of kind of like sticking it to the man.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
you know
I mean, you're right. That imagery is so important. If we're fed an image that tells us one story, we will believe it until confronted with a different image that tells us something completely different.
yeah,
And from those images, we can create hatred or fear,
yeah,
and then we can also create empathy, sympathy, and even above empathy and sympathy, compassion for other people.
compassion and hope for the future.
Yeah.
How do you identify in terms of Hispanic, Latino, Latina,
Hmm.
and how does that influence your work?
I mean, I grew up in the 80s, so the only word
hmm
that I had to grab onto was Hispanic. And then the word that I would hear at home was Latino. And then as I grew older, it became apparent that those words were not quite enough to encase the
hmm
entire diaspora. So I think right now the word that seems to feel okay is Latinx, but I also understand that there's like quite a lot of people that are not comfortable with that phrase either. So what about you? How do you answer that question for yourself and to other people?
Latino, Latine, Latinx.
Hmm.
Technically, I am like
Yeah.
Chicano,
Ghana.
because both my parents are from Mexico. But it's really hard because we're basically being asked to take this giant diaspora and just like give it a name.
Yeah, just condense it down to one thing.
Yeah, it's not. We're not like a monolith here. Was it hard for you when you came out to your parents?
Yeah, it was slow and protracted. It wasn't this cool TikTok moment. Much of it actually kind of really came to be through the art that I was making at the time, which was this character of
Yeah.
Rosa on Brooklyn, because my parents watched every episode, and that
Mm,
particular episode, they didn't call me afterwards. And
yeah.
then my dad messaged me and said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to say. And then he repeated the lines that were written in the episode. I love you just the way you are. I love you no matter what. He literally repeated the lines that had been written for Danny Trejo's character, who played my dad in the episode. To have him watch that piece of art and then use that behavior as a model to tell his kid that he's okay with her being queer, it was really magical. It was really special.
That sounds really beautiful.
It was
Uh,
beautiful.
I have to put these like really emotional things out into the world, and
Hmm.
then I forget that like my family and my mom also see what I put out, and then I have
Yeah,
to deal with the consequences
right.
of all that. how do you deal with that?
I don't know that I always do deal with it. I mean, I in that instance, I waited for my parents to come to me on their own timing. I think that's the main thing that I think about all the time is like it is not my timing, it is their timing. And,
Yeah.
it may never be exactly what I hope for. I cannot even imagine my parents at a pride parade, like that person only has this many tools in their toolbox, right? Like my father, for example,
Yeah.
only has this many tools in his toolbox.
Has it been hard for you to take, you know, everything that you've been through, all the intersectionalities that you are, and put them out into the world? Like, do you ever feel nervous?
Just today on social media, I posted something about bisexual visibility week, right? And someone said something like, why are you still talking about this? Aren't you married? Didn't you just have a baby? Like, and it was really hard to see that, like
Yeah.
I wanted to scream. It would be easy for me to hide. That's why it's vital for me to be like, hello, I'm bisexual, like,
Yeah.
and like, how would I look at my kid in the face later down the road and go like, by the way, I was just kind of hiding this part of I was closeting this part of myself, but you should try to be who you are,
Yeah.
like, how can I want to live by example? I think one of the things that's important to me as I keep moving through my career is to continue expanding what it means to me to be an artist and not get
Mm-hmm.
locked up in sort of somebody else's idea of what I'm supposed to be or who I can even be.
I think after a while, you start to like pigeonhole yourself into what you think you're supposed to be, you know?
Yes. Or what you think people want to see from you.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it's important
Mm-hmm.
as artists to continue sort of seeing like, well, what are the boundaries of what I want to do? What do I want to, I think about this a lot. It's like, what is the legacy that I want to leave behind when I look at the body of my work? And
Yeah.
because it lasts longer than we do, hopefully. We hope.
Yeah. It does. I
Yeah.
mean, we know that for sure,
Yeah.
since we're still consuming stuff, from
True.
a hundred years
100
ago.
years ago. Yeah.
It's something I think about too often, is like the legacy that I'm leaving behind. It's like a weird thing to think about while you're creating, about like your own immortality
I
and what
agree.
it's gonna be in 100 years
I
from now or
agree.
even longer.
Do I always want to play queer characters? Maybe. I used to think like, oh, I don't know. But like if I turn around and look at my career on my dying day and I see only queer characters forever and ever, great.
Yeah.
What a blessing that I lived in a time where I could play characters that
Where you
were
could do
openly
that.
queer. 50 years ago, that would not have been the case at all. When you're thinking about projects and when you're thinking about things that you want to make, and when you're because I know you do art for a drag show, right? Like don't you do art for a drag
Hmm.
show that's like in so in that process, like do they give you just like free reign to be and do whatever you want, or is there feedback back and forth?
Yeah, it's my friend Nikki's drag show. We talk about like the colors that are inspiring us for the month, and like what she kind of gave me the range to just do what I do.
But that
Yeah,
is really nice because I mean she trusts you. She trusts you as an artist.
yeah. What's your dream project that you would want to put out into the world?
There's a writer that I really love named Callie Fajardo Anstine, and she is Latina and Indigenous, and she is just so talented. Essentially, like whatever she writes, I want to make it into something. But a sort of smaller answer than that is, or a less specific answer is, I want to make things that have women in the lead, and I
Hmm.
want those women to look like my sister, my mother, myself, because those women have traditionally been sidelined, pushed to the side, secondary
Yeah,
characters.
I think it wasn't until 2019 when I saw somebody that looked like my mom in a movie, and
Yeah.
it was I'd never really given it any thought, but to see somebody that looked like the women that are around me was very moving.
It's so moving. Yeah. I had never seen it before either until around 2019. And I remember feeling really moved and also
Yeah,
really angry at the same time that other
yeah,
people had had the experience of seeing their families on TV for so long, and that I had been robbed of that until that moment. It's so unfortunate, but it like that would be the thing that I want to make the most, is like I want to see them. I want to see them and I want to center them. I hope that somebody that's seeing the work that I put out now that wants to create this kind of art sees it and feels like the door is open for them and that they belong. I love talking to you. This is a gift.
Likewise.
It was a gift.
Thank you.
Really.